Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank all of you who've been joining us throughout the years. It's always an honor to share with you your weekend. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And as you know, for those of you who've been following closely the show in the last couple of weeks, we are podcasting most of the interviews that we do on this show. So once again, thank you. Thank you for not only listening to us, but also watching us via YouTube Live. A very important week for Mexico for many reasons. As you know, I follow issues that have to do with security very closely on this show, and there's been a series of events that are taking place this throughout the week, and as we speak this weekend that has to do with security and protest. As you know, we spoke about this last week in regards to the murder of the mayor of Uruapan, which may or may not have initiated a movement. There's also these protests that took place this week that has to do with the Z generation. And then, of course, there was the teachers union that also participated in different protests. And there has been agriculture. I mean, there's a lot of unhappy citizens in Mexico right now. But of course, this is all taking place literally, 7 months before the World Cup happens. President Claudia Sheinbaum came out this week with some interesting data regarding what is the situation of violence in the country. According to the Mexican government's data, homicides have gone down 31%. So let's just start out with that information. Although there is a general perception that violence has not only continues, but has increased in the country. To talk about all this data that was provided this week, I really appreciate today's guest. You know him well if you've been following us throughout the years. It's Francisco Rivas. He is the director of the Security Citizens Observatory. Francisco, I'm trying to understand the data provided by President Claudia Sheinbaum. I want to be optimistic, but there just seems to be distrust in the data, but above all, just distrust in the sense that although the security strategy has changed, I'm not too sure whether that strategy is going to reflect a decrease in violence in Mexico. Welcome to the show, Francisco. It's always great to have you on Living in Mexico.
Thank you, Ana Maria, for having me. Well, as you know, there is a lot of information that looks like is consistent about the results or the claimed results of this government. But we should divide those crimes that has to that are responsibility of the federal government and the other crimes that they also claim that it's result of the strategy that are not related with the federal government. For example, they are talking about burglars and robbery all over the country, and it is true in the last 5 years those kind of common crimes are getting down in not only in the statistic but also in the victimization that we can analyze. But those are crimes that are related with the local government, the municipalities and the state government is not related with the work of the federal government.
So when you say common crime, just for our audience, we're talking about crimen común, which has to do with crimes that fall under the local jurisdiction. And then there's federal crimes. So see, this is really interesting. I hadn't understand that part of the data. So basically, when we see these numbers that homicides have gone down 31%, they're talking about all homicides that include both federal crimes and crimen común, local crimes. Is that correct?
Is that correct? But when I talk because this is something that actually the president says that, of course, they are claiming that homicide is getting down and Mexico is less violent, at least of what she's claiming. But also she is talking about these other crimes that are not the federation involved. So for
Hmm.
me, that is the first thing that we should separate. The second thing is true. The data about the number of homicide is getting down. Is not getting down that big result as she is actually governments are saying that homicide is decreasing 32% in the last year. So it looks like a big number. The data says that is getting down 40%, 14%, not 32. So it's still a good result, but it's not that good result as the federal government claims. And this is other thing. Of course, they are talking about homicide, but they are talking about other crimes that are getting up. One is called other crimes against life and integrity. Uh, and these are kind of a gray area where a lot of states are just putting the homicide in, and it's not the right way to create the statistic, the official statistic about crimes, but states are doing that, and the federal government are not talking about this decision of the states to register homicides in another specific statistics. And the other thing is the president are also avoid to talk about the disappearing of person. That in Mexico it's a huge problem. Only in the first year of the government of Claudia Sheinbaum, so since October 24 to September 25, the first year of her government, almost 50,000% people disappear. Is the highest number in
Could
one
you repeat
year.
that? Could you repeat that again? So, in her first year of as president of Mexico, could you give me that statistic again? That is kind of it is shocking.
Yeah, and this is the official data. So
What
it's
it
official data with a lot of problems of the official data because there are a lot of people that disappear in Mexico, but they have not the way to report the disappearance, especially when we talk about illegal migrants that try to come from South America and go to United States.
say
But the figure is huge. We are
what can you
talking
give it
about,
again? Can you state,
yeah,
can you just underline what that number is, please?
15,000 people.
Wow. In 1 year.
In one year. And it's
Wow.
the highest number of all history. Just for put in a kind of perspective, uh, since 1940, no, 64 to 2018, in
Mhm,
Mexico disappeared 60,000 people. So in 60 years,
mhm.
disappeared 60,000 people. In
Wow.
Since 2018, since the government of López Obrador, through the government of Claudia Sheinbaum, 80,000 people disappear. So disappear more person in the last 7 years
Mhm.
than in 60 years of Mexican history. Of course, the president are not about this. Some numbers of homicide are decreasing, but
Right.
also because when people disappear right now, there are no one that looking for them. Because one thing that we miss is before the López Obrador administration, it was really clear that when you find an illegal graveyard, and
Mhm.
we know the problem with with organized crime is fortunately the most of them are already dead. They kill them and they put it in illegal graveyards.
Mhm.
But in the Calderon administration and in the Peña administration was really clear when you find a legal graveyard, you can understand how many people was put in there.
Okay,
And
let me stop because that's also very interesting. So when they find these illegal graves or these massive graves in the last in the last, I don't know how many years, those people are not considered dead because they have not been identified. Is that right?
No. Before, in the Calderon and the Peña Nieto administration, when you find an illegal graveyard, you have to look, and I'm sorry with the audience if I'm so graphic, but you have to find head, at least one head or at least one torso, to say there is a body over there, there is a victim of homicide. Because I, let me put it this way. If I'm a criminal and I want to torture 1,000 persons and I amputate the arm, I can have 100, 1,000 arms in a graveyard, and is not necessarily related with a person that was killed over there. So you have to find the head of the torso for claim that you have the body of a person that was killed over there. So, of course, when you find a graveyard, a legal graveyard, you have to first clarify how many bodies are there. After that, you have to work for give them an identity. But meanwhile, even if you don't identify those persons, if you find 100 heads or 100 torsos, you have to clarify we have at least 100 persons in the statistic of homicide.
Mm,
And this was the way that Mexican government works since 2006 to
mm,
2018. Since
mhm.
2020, when the AMLO administration, they stopped to register that kind of victims on the statistic of homicide. So I'm
S-
pretty sure that in Mexico we don't have less homicide. We have worse data,
We just have less
less
reporting.
reliable data, and
Hmm.
exactly,
Less
because you are
reporting.
not putting
Hmm.
there all the people that
Hmm.
unfortunately in our country die violent.
Hmm. Joining us today is Francisco Rivas. He heads the Citizens Observatory. He's been joining us throughout the years. And one of the things that the observatory does extraordinarily well is to collect data, but also analyze data that is provided by the government. We're running out of time. I would literally one last question. Do you, despite the flaws in the information provided by the government, do you think are things getting better? Is this new strategy? It's hard to understand what the new strategy is, but is this new strategy actually are actually things improving, at least in terms of homicides, extortions, and other crimes?
Well, I think the situation is this: when you have a strategy that works, you see the results in a medium and long term. So even if we have less homicide, let's think that the statistic is good and the statistic is perfect and they don't have any problems, and there is no under registration something, then we can trust them. Even if we can trust them, I don't think we are already in the place to understand if the results, or at least the results, are reflecting in less homicide. I think we have a better strategy. We have good results when they decomisan, and I forgot the word in English, drugs or guns, or the number of people that they are putting in jail. So this is
Hmm.
the good results, and they are in the right track.
Right.
I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure that right now we don't see no better numbers, and also because I it's the same thing. A lot of crimes in Mexico are responsibility of states
Hmm.
and municipalities, not necessary federal government.
That's right.
And those
Hmm.
administration, they lost a lot of people, they lost a lot
Resources,
of the incomes
money.
in the last 7 years.
Yeah,
Resources, they
yeah.
lost more than 40-50%. So we have right now worse police, worse prosecutor office than we
Mhm,
had in 2018.
mhm. We are having problems with our audio.
And if you don't solve that problem, it's
Mhm.
impossible that they should
Joining us today is
you are
Francisco
you hear
Rivas.
me?
I can hear you now, Francisco. We're having problems
Oh,
with our
okay.
audio, but I think I got the gist of your final comment. Just anything else just to add before we go to commercial break? Nope. It's we're having problems with our audio. It's that was Francisco Rivas. He heads the observatory from the Citizens Observatory. He's been joining us throughout the years, and we're going to bring him back really soon because, of course, what we didn't talk about was about the future of the World Cup in this environment where there's so much violence. Francisco, I apologize for the audio problems. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go to a break. I'm Ana Maria Salazar, and I apologize for the audio. I'll be right back.